Welcome to our podcast. My name is Judy Durst, and I'm the Director of Education for New Hampshire Association of Insurance Agents. With me today is Russell Hilliard, Esquire, of Upton Hatfield. Russ will be presenting a Q&A session during our upcoming professional development days. Russ, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
I will, Judy. Thanks for having me. I look forward to the program. My name again is Russ Hilliard. I am a New Hampshire native, by the way. Went away to college and law school, but came home and have been practicing law in New Hampshire for 45 years. I do a variety of commercial litigation, but particularly relevant to our discussions in the program is I've had the privilege, I believe since 1983, of representing agencies and brokers in E&O claims in New Hampshire and working closely with your association throughout that period of time. My law firm is Upton Hatfield, which is the main office is in Concord. Some of the people on the program may recognize the name Upton. It's a family firm. We have no longer any living Uptons in the firm, but we've been around for 112 years now. And
you have been here for 112 years, have you?
Not quite. I now work in, we have a little branch office in Portsmouth, and that's where I work out of.
Great. All right. So why is E&O education important to insurance agents in New Hampshire and the other states?
Well, I think you start with the premise that any education is important, and particularly for any professional group, it's important. We certainly have continuing education in the legal profession, and I've enjoyed participating in a number of your programs for insurance agents. And I guess there's a couple of things I think about as to why it's important for all of us. I mean, if we don't learn about mistakes others have made that have led to problems, we're doomed to repeat them. And so to a large extent, education is learning about not only the right way to do things, but also how some people have not done the right thing on occasion, what's gone wrong, what the consequence has been, and most importantly, how do you, in your own shop, prevent that kind of an error from happening? I've been doing this so long, I finally realized after a couple of decades that with respect to insurance agents and brokers, the phrase "the buck stops here" comes to mind because we often have these situations where there's an incident, there's a claim, the denial of coverage, and ultimately an E&O claim against the agent for not having that coverage in place. And I'll never forget, this has got to be 20 years ago, because my younger daughter was in high school, and it was a take your daughter to work day. And part of my day that day was to take Marie to a deposition in an E&O case. And the facts, quite simply stated, are that there was a couple in Nashua who were in fact running a daycare operation out of their home, and one of the children fell into the pool. Fortunately, was not severely injured or permanently damaged, but there was then a claim made. The homeowners turned the claim into their carrier, and the carrier said, "Wait a minute, you said you don't have any business operation going on at that home," led to denial of coverage, led ultimately to a suit against the agent. And I was explaining to Marie that it was parents of injured child sued homeowners running the daycare center, who sued the homeowners insurance company for coverage, and the homeowners insurance company then sued the agent because the allegation was that the agent knew the daycare center was being operated there, and it was not on the application. And Marie listened to my description and said, said, well, it's sort of a sue line or a lawsuit line of A versus B versus C versus D. And we're always D. And that's why I say the buck stops here. And that's why education is important.
Very good answer. I love that answer. So what are you seeing in trends, for trends in, litigation around here?
Yeah, over the years, particularly when, these kind of programs are coming up, I've tried to think about them. Is there a trend? Is there a common issue or problem? And it's hard to identify in particular. However, interestingly enough, the last couple of years, it seems like all of my cases have been concentrated in situations where a policy is being rewritten, either through a new carrier or to change the inception date to line up with other coverages. For whatever reason, policies are being rewritten. And I've had a spate of situations lately where a coverage that was in the prior policy somehow has dropped out and is not in the new policy.
Correct.
And it happens for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it happens for reasons nobody can figure out in the submission of the application or the underwriting. And generally, the only intention is to change carrier or change inception date, but some coverage has dropped out, and as life has it, within the next few months, an incident happens, a claim that would have been picked up by the coverage that somehow got dropped.
Yeah.
And as I say, Judy, I can't, other than saying that I've had several of those in the last 2 or 3 years, and therefore, is that a trend? I don't know. Is it a trend because, and I wouldn't know this, your attendees would, because of market forces, are books of business being shifted to new carriers? I know that sometimes insureds or even an agency likes to have inception dates all lined up, so the expirations line up. But anyway, that is what I've been seeing lately, although I'm reminded, I heard a speaker say this once, and it stuck with me, which is the plural of anecdote is not data. And therefore, I hesitate to extrapolate from some limited experience I've had here. But in fact, that's what I've seen most commonly in the last few years are coverages getting dropped when a policy is changed. And of course, when that happens, as I said, the buck stops here. It kicks in because the lesson always is, although it's obvious, when the replacement policy comes in, somebody at the office has got to take a pretty careful look and make sure that nothing's been missed. But so that's the best I can give you as a trend. Otherwise, looking back over 40, close to 40 years, oh my gosh, the fact situations and the problems have been all over the map, as you well know, all over the map. And just the strangest things happen. I did go through a period of time, as I was mentioning, that one that my daughter attended, there was a period of time, whenever, 20, 25 years ago, when I did have a number of cases where the issue was that the agent actually knew of something the insured was doing, some operation that had not been disclosed on the application, and a claim arises out of it, and the insured says, well, wait a minute, I mean, you've been to my business 100 times, you know what I'm doing here, and therefore the knowledge of the agent being attributed to the carrier and the repercussions of that. But other than that, all over the map, and is what keeps it interesting for
Yeah.
me anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure. So in looking at this Q&A session, what kind of information do you hope to convey to the audience?
Well, the number one message that I usually try to convey is the importance of documentation. I can't tell you how many cases I know that I've won because the judge or jury has been impressed with the completeness and accuracy of the agency records, so that any suggestion that something different happened or was said is discounted because the record keeping is so good. So that would be one thing. And the other one is just continuing oversight on, procedures for checking that expirations have been followed up on, new policies have been checked. And other than that, just to be generally alert that it's a field that, for me, I've learned quite a bit about it over the years working on these cases, but I'm still not attuned to all of the nuances and details that the agents are, and a number of things to keep track of, and the importance of competent and valued personnel, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, I'm really looking forward to this session. I think we're going to have a lot of questions about a variety of things. As you said, there are so many different aspects here, and so it'll be wonderful to see you again on April 1st, and we'll be able to ask you some questions. I will get the questions off to you ahead of time, so anyone who's listening to this podcast, if you have some questions, don't hesitate to send them to me.
And I will tell you, Judy, in any of these sessions, I'm much more interested in the attendees' questions than I am on what I might just
Okay. All right.
say. So please send. I look forward to the questions and look forward to the session.
Great. Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
This podcast was sponsored by Liberty Mutual and Safeco Insurance. Professional development days will be offered virtually April 1st, 6th, and 15th, and will feature questions and answers, fun and games, and continuing education courses. For more information about our professional development days, Upton and Hatfield, or our sponsors, Liberty Mutual and Safeco, please check the description below. Thank you.